it's been a crazy week. And just to kind of illustrate how crazy that week is, well, maybe it wasn't this week or it was late last week or something, but we never talked about it, I don't think.
Okay.
So the UN tweeted something talking about, hey guys, even during times of war, there are still rules that we all need to follow.
Okay.
There are some things you can't do even when at war.
Sounds like a take we'd give, a cold take.
That's what I'm thinking.
Sub-zero take.
And Israel took personal offense to that. Quote tweeted it and said, well, Israel has the right to defend itself. One, why did they feel the need to do that?
All they're saying is like, hey, follow the rules, guys.
Hey, guys, it's not even, they didn't even call you out. They didn't say anything. All they did was, hey.
Self-report.
It was the lightest nudge that I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, hey, whoa. Just remember that there are some things that we kind of agree on as the international community that you shouldn't be able to do, that you
Killing
shouldn't
civilians
do.
is like the one thing.
And they said, whoa, now, I'm going to take that personally. We have a right to defend ourselves. And in defending ourselves, we can do whatever the fuck we want.
It's crazy that I've seen Israel and the IDF like on social media engaging in the culture war.
Yeah.
Like states. These are like state actors, or the state itself of Israel engaging in the culture war. It's crazy to see them, like, people will say, you know, we shouldn't be carpet bombing Gaza, or we shouldn't cut off electricity to Gazan citizens just to get Hamas. And then in response, the actual IDF Twitter account will say, why are you pro-Hamas?
Yeah.
If you're not with me, you're a terrorism.
Like, they're actively doing the fucking Twitter thing where it's like someone says, oh, I like pancakes. And I'm like, oh, so you fucking hate waffles then?
Yeah.
You really, wow, you despise waffles.
It's so crazy. Like, what are we doing?
I feel like that, like, their engagement with the culture war personally peaked for me when I saw this tweet that they posted. I gotta pull it up and put it on the screen for all of you. This shit was on the official Israel account, mind you. They who must be named. Hamas equals ISIS. And then it's a fucking picture of Voldemort from Harry Potter holding a phone and looking disgusted at what he sees on the phone that says, Hamas redefines evil. Watch the evidence, HamasMassacre.com. And I'm going to assume the implication here is that Hamas is so evil that Voldemort, the Dark Lord, was appalled at what they've done. Brother, Harry Potter posting on the government account is crazy.
Man, that is just like when Israel was like, it was like October 8th, the day after the attack.
Yeah.
They announced a collab with BetterHelp. Like, like the next day. It's the same shit. It's so wild. I've never seen a state engage with like consumerism to this degree.
They're doing shit we should be doing.
Yeah.
They're doing.
I mean, it's not surprising to see them as fans of JKR, you know, like similar camps, you know what I'm saying?
And that's funny because it's like, this is an instance where it's like, I'd imagine any other author would be like, yo, don't like bastardize my creation like that. But she's probably out here like, yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Absolutely. You know, the way I wrote Voldemort, they would absolutely be siding with Israel.
You said, you know what, do more. I'm going to call him Voldemort Al-Hadid, actually, in the next one.
I feel like if I knew more about Harry Potter, I could probably make a poignant critique of how like they don't actually know what the motivations of the characters were. But like at base, not surprising to see them side with JKR.
I'm saying, and it's like, I don't know, to kind of like position yourself akin to Voldemort and thinking that this shit is evil is crazy. that shit is
also
wild.
What about like all the anti-Semitic tropes in Harry Potter?
Oh, what about all the anti-every fucking group tropes in Harry Potter? What is it? The one Asian character's name is Ching Chong or Ching Chang or some shit like that.
I don't know the specifics. I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but I know that their depiction of like goblins is just blatantly anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
It's like, I thought we were angry about anti-Semitism here. But instead, they're just doing these like vague cultural appeals to people, specifically in the United States, where they're, you know, roping in things that they know Americans like Harry Potter.
And it's like, that's crazy, because it's like, all you need to do is convince Joe, and you already got him. Like, you really don't need to do it. They're doing it for the love of the game.
Well, and this is like a little bit of a spoiler for what we're going to talk about today in terms of like the new war crimes that are happening. But one thing that happened this week was that Israel took out the telecoms company for Gaza. So they just lost access to communications, and they didn't have access to what they needed, like for the internet and stuff like that. And then the IDF, some spokesperson for the IDF, I think, or a general, something like that, released a video in English telling people that, supposedly it was a video to Hamas, telling them that they need to like return the hostages and back down, and then we'll stop bombing Gaza, that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, you're releasing a video supposedly it's for people in Gaza, but they don't have communications technology right now, and you're speaking in English. You're just appealing to a Western audience. And your point is to try to build support among the West, which, I don't know. I've seen some polls that indicate support for Palestinians is going up, some polls that indicate that support for Israel is still very strong. I don't really know where Americans are at or other people in the West are at, but I feel like this indicates to me that Israel is a little bit worried of not necessarily the governments of the West abandoning them, but the people, the populations of the West thinking like, yeah, Israel is just fucking insane right now.
Yeah.
Because why else do you make a video like that?
I don't know. And it's like when the first attack happened, like when Hamas attacked on October 7th, a couple of days later, they were releasing statements just like in English.
Yeah.
Who's that for?
Yeah.
That's not
exactly.
for your citizens. That's for us.
Yeah. I don't know. That's Israel's culture war game. I wouldn't say it's strong, but it's definitely nothing I've ever seen before. And I've been alive for a couple conflicts, you know?
I'm saying, yeah, it's a level of cringe that I didn't think that government organizations were ready to get on.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, you could argue that Zelensky and some of the media appearances he's done is a little cringe just because he's like always in those army fatigues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could argue he's doing a sort of appeal to the West, and he certainly is. But Ukraine wasn't on there like blasting memes like Israel is.
No.
Like what? It's like they're trying to win an election among Gen Z or something. It's fucking wild. Like they're doing the Jeff Jackson type shit, but worse.
Zelensky never Harry Potter posted, and I think that's the line that I don't think you can cross as an official state.
That should be a war crime on its own. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, that's crazy. Gotta love that. Welcome back to Head in the Office. We have an exciting announcement.
Yes.
The news is a little bit different this week.
That's right. Don't worry. We still have the same two stories we've been talking about for the last month. However, they are a little bit different.
Well, the Israel one's more of the same.
Yes.
But the speaker one, very different.
Very different. Actual updates with that one. And we have two news stories to one news story to talk about, one update on last week, kind of.
Okay, so I was going to say October's been mostly the same, but for a lot of people, they'll listen to this in November because this will come out on November 1st. But
that's true.
The last 4 weeks, very similar pieces of news. And look, it's not our fault. We don't create the news. We just follow it and report on it.
What can I say? What can we say?
We're commentators. We gather all the data and we make conclusive statements.
In a way, we are reactionary.
Yeah, precisely. That's what that means.
Exactly.
Before we get into the show, though, if you want to help support what we do here, the news we deliver to you all, and our existence as human beings, you can head over to patreon.com/headintheofficepod. Become a patron, get early access to our content. You could also go and buy some merch. I'm wearing some right now.
That's right. I'm also wearing some right under this little crewy I got on.
Exactly. The Rudy Giuliani shirt's appropriate for the news we'll talk about a little bit later in this episode. But if you want a Rudy Giuliani shirt or a Trump shirt or the Mugshot Era shirt or something from our previous collection,
the regular Hiddo merch,
go and check it out. Headintheoffice.com. It's in the description for you. Also, if you're not from YouTube or TikTok, etc., go follow us on social media.
Got to. Come on, we post funny stuff some there. Like we post funny stuff sometimes.
Funny stuff and like unpredictably controversial stuff. Just fucking out of nowhere. We'll post the simplest take. No good Nazis, no ethnostates. People get mad. I don't get it.
It really is those two.
Yeah.
It really is those two where we got like a lot, genuinely people in the comments like, whoa now.
We'll get into it. Don't worry. But the other way you can support the show is leave a 5-star review on Apple. I think we got just one today.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
Disappointing.
Very disappointing. I can't believe you guys. If you guys were really committed to making sure Head in the Office got to the moon, you'd be in the reviews. You'd be making separate Apple accounts. You'd be in there.
You'd be great. Fuck brigading that shit.
Exactly. This review is from It's Just Kaler, the best leftist podcast out there. They say, I'm someone who never listens to podcasts and has never had much of an interest in politics, but when these fine gentlemen popped up on my TikTok For You page, I was instantly hooked. Jeremy and Gage are extremely insightful and entertaining. Once I started listening, I couldn't get enough. I hope to subscribe to their Patreon when I can afford it, but for now, I wanted to show my support and bought some merch. I definitely recommend listening and checking out their social medias.
Model review right there. Yet again, week after week, we're coming through. I'm glad.
Yeah.
It warms my heart to see that.
It does, yeah, it warms my heart as well. Today, we're going to talk again, of course, about the speaker, as we've been talking about. We got some updates on the Trump legal troubles, but also just like everybody else involved and that kind of stuff. Yeah. We got some UAW updates a little bit later on, but first, as we have been the past few weeks, we got to start off talking about Israel and Palestine. We've got a little bit of an update, but it's More of the same.
Yeah.
Kind of the same exact news. But we do have some fun information, I guess we can talk about.
Yeah.
I was able to dig out a couple of fun things. We've got some variety.
Israel's doing more bad things.
Yes. So for the last several weeks, everyone has been on the edge of their seat awaiting the Israeli ground invasion into Gaza that has been kind of hinted at by the IDF for quite a while now. It hasn't happened just yet. At the time of recording this, Sunday, October 29th, invasion seems imminent. I think they may have even broke down some of the fences, and they might have troops inside by this point.
Oh, really? Wow. But
I don't know. I don't know that like official operations have begun in the sense that they're like raiding homes and, you know, inevitably shooting innocent Palestinians. But that seems like it's going to happen pretty soon. I think the IDF has held off so long for a couple of reasons. This is all speculation. I have no concrete evidence on this, but my guess would be, one, they've been waiting for U.S. aircraft carriers and other warships to be in proximity to deter attacks from Lebanon or Iran. As we talked about last week, not sure if this will actually work, but I do think having United States military, Navy people nearby would hopefully help make it so this doesn't become a broader conflict, but who knows? I could be wrong, and maybe this will just rope us into World War III. I don't know.
They could genuinely also be waiting for more aid from the U.S. now that we have a speaker and that Congress can actually pass aid.
We can condemn Hamas.
We can officially condemn Hamas another week. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't know if the U.S. House was going to condemn Hamas, but I know now.
Thank God they did.
What if they would have supported Hamas?
That would have been crazy. What if they wouldn't have given Israel money?
Yeah.
Guys.
My other piece of speculation for why this ground invasion has taken so long is because, and this is like a documented thing, IDF troops are, despite all the funding they get from the United States and other Western sources, they're kind of fucking dumb. And very bloodthirsty. There's lots of accounts of friendly fire. They are not nearly as disciplined as U.S. military people are.
There are accounts of them killing kids for throwing rocks at them. Near the fence.
That has happened. They've killed each other by accident.
There are snipers that have shot medics or journalists and kids.
Yeah. I think the concern might be that if you have U.S. military people nearby, or even going in for paramedic support,
they're going to accidentally
someone from U.S. personnel, a U.S. citizen, could get shot and killed, and that would be wild.
That'd be so wild to watch Congress see that and then condemn Hamas.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they're trying to get rid of Hamas. Casualties happen.
Come on, fog of war.
It'll be just like Trump with Jamal Khashoggi. Business is business. It's so much for America first, right? And my last piece of speculation is that I don't think that there has been or will be much direction behind an invasion. Similar to the bombardment campaigns, there's not really a point to them, right?
What do you do? Go into every hospital? Because Hamas is in every hospital and every so-called piece of infrastructure in every home and literally everywhere.
Well, and it's not like Hamas is like an organized military, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that they have uniforms. They don't have identifiable pieces of clothing or symbols on them.
No.
They're probably just dudes. I don't know how you're going to go in there and discern who is who. And that's why I think that's not really the point. They just want to cause more damage to Palestinians, right?
Yeah.
There's not really a direction here. Same with the bombing campaigns. They're hitting hospitals and ambulances and residential areas, kicking people out of their homes. The point isn't direction, it's to cause as much harm to them as you can.
Because what goals would they have for actively invading the Gaza Strip? Do the goal, the only stated goal...
They already control it.
That part. The only stated goal that they've got on is to root out Hamas. What does that look like when Hamas isn't a standing army? Like you said, they don't have uniforms and they're just guys.
Yeah, they're just some dudes.
It looks like they're going to go in and kill any guy that's
they could do the anyone over 15, any male over 15 is an enemy combatant thing that the United States did. It's possible that happens as well, which would be more war crimes, more death of innocent civilians, which wouldn't be great. I would expect this to ramp up before this episode comes out. So by Wednesday, if you're not a patron listener, first of all, what are you doing? Second of all, I would expect that things have maybe drastically changed by the time this episode airs. So keep in mind that the invasion might have began. There might be even bigger news that came out, probably on a Tuesday, as it always happens. But keep an eye out for that if you're a late listener. If we want to talk war crimes, though, we do have some updates for those.
Okay.
So far, more than 7,000 Palestinians have been confirmed to be killed as the IDF bombardment continues. Again, this is solely just bombs being dropped.
That's like 5,000 in the last 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. We doubled since last episode, almost.
That's nuts.
Increased by like 2/3 since last episode. Yeah.
Fucking insane.
Late last week, Israel, as I talked about in the cold open, knocked out Gaza's communications by hitting some key infrastructure. Paltel, which is the Palestinian telecom provider, said the bombardment knocked out the internet completely, causing communications blackouts, which is, again, like you only do this. Like, who is Hamas communicating with, right?
Yeah.
Maybe some people that are sympathetic to them in Iran or maybe Lebanon. But again, these are countries that they do not have the military capability even close to what Israel has.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, they don't have the full faith and backing of the most powerful military in the world.
Yeah. Israel is, of course, much smaller than a country like Iran. But yeah, the United States comes in and supports Israel. The entire West will support Israel no matter what. So it's not as though communications getting out is some major crisis. And of course, this just hurts Palestinian people even more as they try to find a way out themselves.
I just don't understand, because another thing is, like, you cut off telecom communication. There's no Telegram, there's no WhatsApp, there's no nothing, no internet going on in there.
Yeah, you can't do anything.
Nobody can document what's happening.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the other piece of speculation.
And as they prepare for a ground invasion, nobody can, like, I've seen TikToks of people in Palestine. I've seen videos of them posting, like, wow, there are bombs going off, like, next to me, all around me. And it's the only window that we've really had inside of Gaza to see what's happening and the extent of Israel's brutality. And now that's kind of just shut off.
Yeah, that is the other piece of, I don't even know if you could call it speculation. That seems like a pretty downstream effect that they're trying to accomplish here. Cut off the ability for Palestinian authorities or outside reporters to document what's going on and to share it with the world as it's going on. I think it's a pretty one-to-one comparison. I don't see any other reason why you'd knock out communications. I think the pretext they offered is probably like, we don't want Hamas communicating with people on the outside.
They can do literally whatever they want and just say, we don't want Hamas drinking water. So
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think a good argument is, I think it's a good argument to say that they probably just don't want what they're doing documented any further.
Especially right before a ground invasion.
Yes.
Boots on the ground, killing 40% of Gaza, less than 15. 15 and under, and they're bringing boots on the ground, and now no one can communicate what's happening. I don't know. It sounds bad to me.
Yeah, also, like, active war zone, right? Gaza is just being constantly bombarded. Gazans, a lot of them aren't pro-Hamas, and they probably have an experience with Hamas that isn't very good, right?
Yeah.
Hamas, dudes with guns, they kill Palestinians as well. If you see armed military men walking in with guns being very aggressive, I'm freaking out.
I'm saying?
Especially as you're already getting bombed. You already haven't had a very good time the last few weeks.
You're on edge. You're starved.
People aren't going to act rationally. You can't expect them to act rationally in this situation. It's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be very bad.
It's fucking insane. And that just circling back to that 7,000 dead figure, that's an absolutely insane number that, importantly, has been verified by Human Rights Watch, other people have been verified because the Palestinian Health Authority has come through and given government identification numbers with all the names of the dead people. And I only say this to say, in context of everything we're talking about, Joe Biden came out Wednesday night and just said it's bullshit.
He said the number's bullshit?
You didn't see that?
No.
Joe Biden
That's nuts.
Joe Biden said, well, this was before the 7,000 number came out.
Okay.
He said it was Wednesday night. That number came out Thursday. Quote, I have no notion that the Palestinians are telling the truth about how many people are killed.
What the fuck? Bro, come on.
I know. And I feel like that kind of just cuts straight through the argument that, no, Biden is actually working on the inside to get Netanyahu to do the right thing here, and he just can't publicly condemn them because now he is just directly feeding into the notion that actually Israel's not doing anything wrong. Yeah. Well, can we really believe the people in Gaza? Can we really believe those numbers if they're the ones reporting it? Yes, we can.
Oh, my God. And the number's probably higher because so many Palestinians are just straight up stateless. Yeah. They don't get identification cards. They don't get social security numbers like we do when we're born. They are stateless people, and it's a lot harder to count them if you have no evidence of their existence prior to their death. So I guarantee you the number of people that have died is larger than what's being reported. And on top of that, it's like, Gaza is, if not it is one of the most densely populated places on the planet.
Yeah.
Of course, constant bombardment runs, more than 10,000 bombs have been dropped at this point. Of course, that's killing thousands of people, Joe. What are we talking about? If it's not the bombs, then it's the fact that they've lost access to critical infrastructure. They've lost access to water and food, etc. Of course, people are dying.
Well, Israel didn't kill them. They just starved.
Oh, of course.
They're just dehydrated.
Israel didn't kill him. The fucking explosion did.
Yeah.
The rubble falling on them killed
Israel
them.
didn't kill him. Fatigue did.
Yeah.
From traveling 10 miles without food or water or fuel or anything like that.
What are we doing?
That's absolutely nuts. And I also want to say that the UN also comes forth and corroborates data that the Palestinian Health Ministry puts out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really only us that are coming out and saying, nah, those numbers, that's cap.
Mm-hmm.
That's cap.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my God, man. Come on. It's just like the beheaded babies thing where he just straight up lied and said, I saw the beheaded babies.
I saw it and then released a statement and said, I did not see that shit.
No, you did. Like, it's just, like you said, it's hard to believe at this point that he's working behind the scenes to, like, make things better when he's actively, he didn't have to say that.
No.
Actively running defense for Bibi Netanyahu at this point.
And it's like, why? Yeah. Why come out and say that? Why come out and cast doubt on these figures? Mm-hmm. I don't understand.
That goes beyond what right-wingers have done.
Yeah.
Right-wingers have fully accepted, like, thousands of people are dying, and that's good.
Right-wingers have said, no, good, like, more.
Like, you don't have, like, he's going beyond what people like Ben Shapiro are doing, and he's actively saying, like, no, they're not committing war crimes. Yeah. He's just denying it.
He didn't even do the thing where it's like, well, everyone in Gaza supports Hamas, so they're all basically a part of Hamas.
They were elected.
You gotta do what you gotta do. He just said, nah, sorry.
Yeah. I saw Piers Morgan. I saw they lost Piers Morgan.
Oh.
Piers Morgan was like, obviously he's been pro-Israel. I've watched a couple of the debates he's had recently because they've had some high-profile people on there.
The one with the Egyptian guy was crazy.
Yeah. And I saw a tweet from Piers, I think yesterday, where he was like, obviously in support of Israel and condemn Hamas, but like, where are all these Gazans going to go? Like, Israel's destroying their homes. What's the plan for them?
Oh, no, dog. When you lose Piers Morgan, I think you lost the plot. Like,
when you lose Piers Morgan, he calls himself a liberal, but he's clearly not,
when
right?
Piers Morgan's starting to cast doubt on you, I think that's when you need to take a good hard look in the mirror and realize maybe we should take a step back.
I know TYT, the Young Turks, have had some problems recently, but Cenk went on there, like the main dude of TYT, and Piers barely talked. It's just him yelling the whole time about how like Israel's doing war crimes.
That's so
and then
sick.
At the end, Piers is like, thanks for coming on. And that's it. Like, Piers said basically nothing for like 40 minutes. When you
he said, I condemn Hamas, and then he just let Cenk talk over him.
When Piers Morgan is, when you lose Piers Morgan as a conservative in the conservative project that's Israel, then I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know why Pierce has been doing it too. He's gotta have a kink for it.
Yeah,
because
Pierce Uncensored.
He's been letting these people hop on and dick him down for an hour straight, like every day for the past week and a half. It's crazy on camera.
But does he condemn Hamas?
Oh, that's a good question.
One of the main contentions of this conflict that's been going on is hostages that were taken by Hamas. And while a lot of the hostages are still being held in Gaza, of course, nobody knows where. Some of them were released. I think just 2 of them actually.
Some American hostages, right?
American hostages were released, but I also think the 2 that were recently released, as covered by an article in CNN, were actually Israelis. Okay. But they're just old women. I don't know that Hamas is probably like, they're going to die and we're going to be blamed for it because they're so old. Hamas let them go. And there was an article in CNN with some 80-year-old woman or 85-year-old woman somewhere in there who was taken hostage and released last week. She recalled the kidnapping itself was violent. Of course, it's a violent act, of course. But in her own words, she said, quote, they took care of the sanitary side of things so that we didn't get sick. And she also said, quote, they were very generous to us, very kind. They kept us clean. They took care of every detail. There were a lot of women, and they know about feminine hygiene, and they took care of everything there. She also expressed frustration in the article with the IDF generally for not protecting citizens and basically allowing this conflict to escalate as it has. So I don't know. I don't really know what to make of this. Some people on the left have ran with it to say like Hamas good. A lot of people on the right have just said like Stockholm syndrome, which might be a valid argument there. But it seems, someone's released and they're saying it wasn't like we were being tortured all the time, which is like I didn't think that they were.
No.
Because when you take hostages, especially like a group like Hamas living in Gaza, I would expect that you would want to treat them well so you can use them as a bargaining chip to get prisoners back or to get some kind of, I don't know, to do some kind of political appeal, because torturing hostages or killing them would just generate more animosity towards you.
Especially killing hostages, because then they can't get the prisoners they want back.
Right, exactly. She could also have been exaggerating the good treatment and just saying what she said because she knows people that are still being held, or she's sympathetic to people that are still being held. And if she comes out and says like Hamas did X, Y, and Z, then she's afraid that they'll get killed or something like that. I don't really know what to make of this, and I bring up the story just because it was hitting a lot of headlines. A lot of people were talking about it. ultimately a small story like this, although it's important, doesn't change the calculus for me.
No.
It's still Free Palestine. Even if she came out and said like Hamas is torturing people, it's still Free Palestine because Hamas does not represent all Palestinians. Simple as that.
No.
One other thing that I want to bring up, actually two other things that I want to bring up.
Right.
This one I just thought was very funny.
Nice.
So, in some funny culture war news, the Starbucks Workers United Union tweeted out a couple of weeks ago, a few days after the attack, just solidarity with Palestine.
Word.
That's all they did.
Good shit.
Yeah, this was just a couple of weeks ago. And this apparently made an organization called the Orthodox Jewish Chamber of Commerce very angry.
No, that's crazy.
And made them think that that Starbucks as a whole was, quote, in support of Hamas, in their own words. They recently released a statement, and they had an absolute banger of a line where they said, quote, drinking a cup of Starbucks is drinking a cup of Jewish blood.
Dude, that's so sick.
Didn't make that up.
That's so
They
sick.
said that.
I don't know. Zionists and their shit posting have been going crazy recently.
That's a bar. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see the unrecognized Starbucks Workers Union tweet out solidarity with Palestine. Again, unrecognized. The Starbucks CEO, whoever the fuck that guy is.
Howard Schultz.
Yeah, he doesn't recognize them, does not like them, does not want to treat them with respect. And then this organization comes out and says, if you're drinking Starbucks, you're drinking Jewish blood. What the? Like, you are so dramatic.
And it's like, that's also crazy because, yeah, like you said, the Starbucks Workers United, it's not really recognized by Howard Schultz. Howard Schultz himself, I think Starbucks has donated to Israel. People are calling for boycotts of Starbucks because they've given so much money to Israel. And they're just straight up, a cup of Starbucks, that's a cup of Jewish blood. You have beheaded babies in your cup, right? In your fucking dragon fruit refresher right now.
Yeah, I thought that shit was sick. Apparently, Howard Schultz met with them and they like smoothed over some of the issues, but to come out with that dramatic ass statement,
nice.
weeks later is like, what are you doing, man?
See,
that's crazy.
I'm just waiting for the day that I can drop a bar like that. I'm just waiting for the day that I get mine. You know what I mean? That's just another example of a chamber of commerce to not be taken seriously.
Yeah, I know.
They're not doing well by the name.
Yeah, that's also what I was thinking is like, Orthodox Jewish Chamber of Commerce, what the fuck do you guys do?
I've never heard of you guys before.
The regular Chamber of Commerce is bad enough. We don't need ones based on different religions.
You don't need to split off now. Like
the regular Chamber of Commerce is quite plenty.
It's just like, do your own thing.
Yeah.
Do your own thing. You don't need the baggage that comes with them.
The final thing I want to bring up is a take that we posted on TikTok. And I know we rant about like the responses we get to TikToks a lot. And I do want to preface this.
It's valid though.
This take in a lot of our takes that pop off and get, hundreds of thousands of views, most of the comments are in support or saying like, I totally agree, or just adding to what we said, giving more context. So that's the case here. Probably about 70% of all comments are in support of what we said.
There are some vocal minorities that like to rear their little heads and come out of the woodwork to say the craziest shit that I never would have even considered when thinking of counter arguments.
So you may recall last episode, I came out with a bold stance that ethno-states are always bad.
Yes.
Actually, the way I phrased it was no one gets to have an ethno-state. But for those of you that are being charitable, you'll know that what I mean by that, it's shorthand for ethno-states are never morally permissible because they always require genocidal violence to attain them.
And that was explained.
Yeah, that we fully explained. And then we had a couple of different responses. The first response that we got, that was probably the most plentiful, is, but there are ethno-states elsewhere in the world. First point I want to make is that homogeneity and having an ethno-state is not the same thing. Some countries, say like Poland, for example, is like 95% white merely as a result of a lack of immigration or external factors that maybe push people of color out of the country.
Yeah.
It could be the result of, say, genocidal apartheid, even ethno-state violence. But for a place like Poland or a lot of the Swedish a lot of the Scandinavian countries, they're just white because they don't have immigration coming into them.
Yeah.
Or countries that have been deprived of wealth, say in the Middle East, probably don't have a whole lot of white people because we deprive the wealth from them, and immigrants tend to come towards the wealth seeking a better life.
And it's also
just having a homogenous country isn't the same thing as having an ethno-state. An ethno-state is clearly something specific and different.
Yeah, and it's very important to note that those countries, like the Scandinavian countries, are not doing genocidal acts to keep minorities out. Scandinavian countries are not telling minorities that they can't drive on certain road. Officials in Scandinavian governments aren't coming out and saying things on their national television like the right of a Nord to travel is greater than the right of life to, I don't know, an American who comes here.
Yeah. None of that is happening. And that brings me to my second point, where a lot of people were saying, if they weren't talking about homogeneity, they were just saying like other ethno-states exist that surround Israel or that exist in Asia, and they support their ethno-state or attempted ethno-state with state violence. I said nobody gets to have one.
Yeah.
I even brought up the idea of a white ethno-state is bad. I didn't just say Israel is doing an ethno-state. I brought up other examples as well. And for you to come in and instead of accepting the premise that all ethno-states are bad, you bring up other examples. To me, what you're saying is if they get to do it, why don't we get to do it? Mm-hmm. No ethno-state is ever morally justifiable. To the extent that other ethno-states do exist in Asia or Africa or wherever else, I'm not going to like that either. But, I'm simply not.
But we are focusing on Israel here just because that's what's popping off. It started, no one gets an ethno. That means no one. Yes. Not just Jewish people. It wasn't Jewish people don't get an ethno state. It is no one gets an ethno state. No one should have it. No one should be able to support that with genocidal violence.
Yeah.
However, the topic of conversation just so happened to be Israel this time.
And it low-key does feel racist when people say like there are countries in Africa that are ethno states. I don't know everything about like the history of all African countries. I do know that a lot of them didn't get to establish their own borders because the British Empire, the American Empire decided what the borders were going to be. So it's not like people in Africa got to just decide where their country borders were going to be drawn. But at the same time, Africa as a continent as a whole is an incredibly diverse place. Yeah. Thousands of different languages spoken. There's more than 1,000 different ethnicities, tons of different traditions and values. For someone to say like, oh, well, but there's a ton of ethno-states in Africa, makes me think that all you see is that like they're black. Yeah. And that's the only characteristic you care about. It's clearly not what I'm talking about.
The black people countries.
Yes.
That's what's going on over there.
Same thing with Asian countries too.
Not like Kenyans, not people from Kenya or Ethiopia or anyone surrounding. It's just, that's where the black people are from.
And some people brought up China, and it's like, we've talked about how Uyghur Muslims are treated in China. I know Han Chinese people are prioritized above other people, but to say that China is an ethno-state just because you think they all look the same is stupid. China is incredibly diverse. They do prioritize Han Chinese people over others, and that's bad.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that's bad. But for you to bring that up as a counterexample to say Israel gets to exist is for you to say that you just support ethno-states. And that's quite silly.
It's a crazy notion.
Now, the other take that a lot of people had was taking contention with the idea that Israel is trying to do an ethno-state. I don't think Israel is an ethno-state at the moment, but they want to do one. And that's evidenced by the apartheid conditions that exist. Of course, Gaza, largest open-air prison in the world. Palestinians drive on different roads. They have different licenses. They have to go through different military checkpoints just to get to work. Yeah. Tons of examples you could list of how Palestinians are second-class citizens. But then they also had a point that it was like, oh, but there's 20% of the people in the country are Arab, and there's Arabs in their parliament. It's like, okay, so they have a modicum of political power, and suddenly that means they're not doing genocidal violence. Clearly, Netanyahu doesn't want it to be that way.
Clearly.
You know what I'm saying?
Clearly.
I don't know how you can look at apartheid conditions and Netanyahu dehumanizing Palestinians, comparing them to animals, other far-right politicians in Israel saying we need to put Gazans on a diet, and you think that this isn't genocidal violence. Of course it is, right?
I don't know how you can look at what's happening in the West Bank and how, again, motherfuckers from Long Island can come in and kick a Palestinian family out of their home and just take it, and the IDF fully supports them and say, well, that's not earing towards genocidal violence. That's not enforcing an ethno-state. That's actually kicking out ethnic minorities.
Yeah, and there is a distinction to be made. Like, apartheid doesn't always mean that an ethno-state is attempting to be established. Of course, both are bad. But, I would argue that pre the Civil Rights Act, America was probably like a sort of apartheid state, right? But we weren't really trying to establish an ethno-state. We were just trying to benefit off of the labor of Black Americans and, their oppression, of course, and other marginalized groups. But there was never a point where, at least to my knowledge, where the American government itself was trying to establish a white ethno-state. You can make an argument that just merely by there being tiers of citizenship that it was an attempted ethno-state, but that's besides the point. The point I'm trying to make is that clearly the direction of the IDF and what Israel wants to do is get all Palestinians out, if only by expelling them from their homes or if through mass killing, right? Like, clearly they're trying to establish an ethno-state that prioritizes a certain ethnicity above all others, and that is that's what an ethno-state is. And if you don't see that, if you don't see at least that it's an apartheid state, I don't know what to tell you. It's kind of as simple as that.
And it's like, it doesn't even go for just the Palestinians. There were things that happened years ago where Israel was forcibly sterilizing Ethiopian Jews.
Yes, yeah.
They forcibly sterilizing Ethiopian Jewish women. It's not just what's happening to the Palestinians. Israel in of itself is trying to just further like Jewish white supremacy.
And it's important to note as well, when we're talking about ethnostates and state discrimination, it's not always that discriminatory laws are in place.
Yeah.
Sometimes the discrimination happens with who you give citizenship to, right? It could be the case that all citizens in a country are treated the exact same under the law, but the distinction and discrimination comes in with who you give citizenship to. As I said earlier, a lot of Palestinians, especially those in Gaza, are completely stateless people. They don't have access to the things that regular Israeli citizens have access to, and that's where the second-class citizenship, or lack thereof, comes from. They're treated as less than Israelis are. They're treated as less than the dominant ethnicity is treated.
Yeah.
And, of course, we can surmise from the narratives that the IDF pushes, from what Netanyahu says, that he wants to get rid of Palestinians. I mean, that's what their actions tell us, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen, the last thing I'll say here is, I've seen some people argue that, like, oh, well, mostly anybody, important qualifier, can go and become an Israeli citizen. That's true. But let's take you back to, say, 1939 Germany, right? Hitler liked the United Kingdom in America. He liked Americans and he liked Britons. He liked the British people. That was because those people in Hitler's mind reflected what the world should look like, right? White people.
Yeah.
He took ideas from how America treated Black Americans and Asian Americans and other immigrants for what he would eventually do to Jewish people, right? If you want to build an ethno-state, you have to appeal to people outside of where your country currently is. And you usually do that by saying, like, oh, yeah, you could come along and join in our ethno-state project as well.
Yeah,
if Israel, or conversely, or similarly, if Germany came out and said, like, we're going to have an ethno-state and kill literally everybody else, it's kind of hard to get people to buy into your project.
Yeah.
But if you extend what you're trying to do to others, you can get some buy-in from countries that are more powerful than your own.
And it's like there were more intellectually diverse ideas in Germany at the time. In the German parliament, there was more intellectual diversity until there wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
and until a specific night where there wasn't anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, it was like a progression over time, right? But
Yeah.
like, yeah, if you make any of those kinds of arguments as a means to, like, debunk the fact that we say there should be no ethno-states, it just makes me think you want an ethno-state.
Yeah.
Or you see other countries doing it, say there is an ethno-state somewhere in the Middle East. I don't fucking know. It's a complicated place on the planet. Say that there are a couple ethno-states. If you see that and you think, like, oh, well, Israel should be able to do it too, I'm saying nobody should be able to do it.
I don't think they should. I don't think they should.
It's not a hot take. Sub-Zero, evergreen take.
The only difference here is they're not doing anything that's catapulting them into international spotlight. If they were, I'd talk about it and I'd say it's bad.
Exactly. Moving on to our next news story here. Very exciting.
Very exciting.
Congress is back in operation.
Finally got resolved.
Our bicameral legislature, both houses, they're operating finally because we finally got a Speaker of the House.
Conservatives finally came together and stopped infighting for, like, what, the last 3 weeks?
Yeah, it's been, I want to say, by the time they got a speaker, probably like more than 20 days.
Yep.
That's 20 days of the 45 days that they had to make a new budget. So
Very
we are
important.
running out of road to come out with a budget here. But if your first response was like, when you saw the news, I'm going to assume a lot of people saw the news. If your first response was like, who the fuck is this guy?
So,
Don't worry. That was my response too. And we'll get into it right here, right now.
That's exactly what I thought. I didn't even know the vote was happening. I didn't even know they brought forth a new candidate. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing on Twitter, congratulations, Mike Nobody Johnson. Congratulations. We all knew you had it in you. You're going to lead so well. Huh?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
What state are you from?
Where did he even come from? So last week, the House elected its 56th speaker in history. That man was one Representative Mike Johnson from Louisiana. Again, if you don't know who Mike Johnson is, I think that might have been the point. Nobody knows who he is.
100%, yeah.
He's a very basic-looking white dude. Pretty young guy, too. Not an old geezer by any stretch of the imagination. Mike Johnson, though, managed to unite the entire party and earned every single House of Representative vote, or House Republican vote to win the speakership, meaning the United States House of Representatives is now in order as we head towards a government shutdown in like 2.5 weeks.
Oh, that's so cool that they're in order before they're about to not be.
And Mike Johnson is the second in line to the presidency, right behind Vice President Kamala Harris. So we have a new Speaker of the House, and it's some dude that I've never fucking heard of before.
The only thing I know about this guy is that he's some like Christo-fascist election denier.
Yeah, you're on the right track.
Nice.
And I could go into a long list and just recite all these things, but I think we can make it a little bit more fun.
Okay.
So now with the House of Representatives having a speaker again, I could again recite a long list of things Mike Johnson has done.
Offensive, moral quandaries.
Yeah, I could do that to give you an idea of his credentials, but I think it would be more fun if we play a game of, was this Mike Johnson or did I just make it up?
Okay.
We haven't done one of these in quite a while. The last time I think we did one was for George Santos.
I'm ready for it.
But we're going to see if Gage has been training.
I'm ready
if he's
for
prepared to detect things that I make up or things that Mike Johnson actually said. So, number one, you ready?
Yep.
Did Mike Johnson sign on to a letter supporting the overturning of the 2020 election results in Texas, Georgia, Michigan, and Wisconsin?
Yes.
Yes,
he
right,
did do that.
According to The Hill, in 2020, quote, Johnson signed an amicus brief along with more than 100 House Republicans supporting a Texas lawsuit that aimed to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Not only that, he was also one of the main leaders behind it. And he voted to overturn election results as well in the House. So
it's like how many, was it like 20-something people that voted to overturn the results?
Maybe. I don't remember at this point.
No, I think it was more than that. It was a long time
100
ago.
people signed on to the letter to overturn the results in those states. And Mike Johnson was the leader of that. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of where he stands on elections.
Nice.
Number two.
Okay.
Did Mike Johnson describe same-sex relationships as, quote, inherently unnatural, selfish, and, quote, harmful and costly for everyone?
He 100% did. He definitely did. That's good.
Mike Johnson did describe same-sex relationships in that way in an op-ed he wrote himself in a Louisiana newspaper in 2004. I have a bonus fact, though.
Okay.
I won't even ask you. I won't even challenge you for this one. It's just for free. In 2003, he also wrote an op-ed that said Lawrence v. Texas, the SCOTUS ruling outlawing the sodomy laws, quote, dealt a devastating blow to fundamental American values.
Oh my, he just wrote that himself?
Yeah,
he didn't even get hot mics, not even in an interview. He put that, he got there, he put pen to paper, and he said, this is me, this is what I believe in, I'm stamping my name, my reputation on this.
He published
and published it himself.
Yeah.
God, man, you know, they love the game.
He said, if I can't make gay sex illegal, democracy's done. What is this all for? American values. Number three, you ready?
Yep.
Did Mike Johnson say, quote, there are homosexuals who take the view, what I do is my business, a purely private matter. However, all things which take place in the sexual sphere are not the private affair of the individual, but signify the life and death of the nation.
I mean, I gotta say he said that.
Okay, you're saying he said that?
I gotta say he said that.
He actually didn't say that. That's a quote I pulled from Heinrich Himmler in 1937, member of the Nazi Party.
See, that's
kind of
crazy.
Similar, though.
That's crazy because it's almost beat for beat the essence of what he said in his op-ed.
That's what I thought too. I literally looked up Nazi views on gay people, and that's
damn.
Moving on to number four. You're 2 for 3 right now. Moving on to number 4. Did Mike Johnson say, quote, today nearly 1 in 4 high school students identifies as LGBTQ, whether it's by scalpel or by social coercion from teachers, professors, administrators, and the left-wing media. It's an attempt to transition the young people of our country. Something has gone terribly wrong.
I feel like that's something he could have said, but I feel like that's something Matt Walsh said.
That was Mike Johnson.
That was Mike Johnson.
He said this July of this year in a congressional hearing.
Damn.
Yeah.
What a guy. What was the congressional hearing for? Which one's like hit national?
Probably like education or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But that's definitely something. It's a direct quote from Mike Johnson himself. But I think we could move on from LGBTQ stuff. But
so much worse than Kevin McCarthy.
Oh yeah, no. I don't know that Kevin said any of this hot mic. Not even hot mic, just proclaimed it.
He definitely didn't publish an op-ed about it.
He said, "Hey, put this in the meeting minutes." But we can move on from the anti-LGBTQ stuff, although that's like his main shtick.
Oh, I bet. That's all these guys, they ride the same wave.
But did Mike Johnson say, quote, their political success does not depend on good policies, but on demographic replacement. They'll do anything to make sure it happens.
That's a Tucker quote.
That's a Tucker quote.
Yeah. See, I know my mans.
That's That's a Tucker quote from 2017, but bonus fact, Mike Johnson did say in a May 2022 congressional hearing, quote, "This is the plan of our friends on this side to turn all illegals into voters. That's why the border's open."
Oh, yeah.
So kind of the same.
They can vote, for sure. Yeah. All right, guys.
Yeah, immigrants have the right to vote. Yep. Did Mike Johnson say, quote, "The prevailing judicial philosophy is no different than Hitler's. Because the life of an unborn child may be difficult or inconvenient or even costly to society, it now means it can be terminated. It is a holocaust that has been repeated every day for 32 years since 1973's Roe versus Wade."
He said it's no different than Hitler, and I like it that way.
Yes.
Yeah. He said, I actually like it that way.
Yeah, he did say that. This is another op-ed in response to some controversy.
Oh, this dude can't take the pen off the paper. Oh, my God.
I have one more.
Okay.
I have one more, number 7. In relation to no-fault divorce, did Mike Johnson...
Oh, he's 100% against no-fault divorce.
Did Mike Johnson, the current U.S. Speaker of the House, second in line to the presidency, say, quote, "In my generation, all we've ever known is this no-fault divorce scheme, and any deviation from that seems like a radical move." And, quote, in the 60s, we invented no-fault divorce laws, the sexual revolution, radical feminism, legalized abortion in 1973. And people say, how can a young person go into their schoolhouse and open fire on their classmates? Because we've taught a whole generation that there's no right and wrong. Do you think Mike Johnson said that?
I was going to say Steven Crowder said that, but... but after the school shooting remark, I think it's really up in the air.
You think it was Mike Johnson?
I think it was Mike Johnson.
Mike Johnson.
Oh my God. I don't understand where the court... This ties into what we talked about last week and how they always make it about themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
They can't not just throw out strays for whatever they're thinking about. Holy shit.
So
that could have been Mike Pence, though.
Current Speaker of the House compared abortion to Holocaust. He said that no-fault divorce is causing school shootings. And he hasn't liked gay people for a very long time.
And he wants you to know that.
Yeah.
He wants you to know that.
Anyway, and he's an election denier, of course, which is important. But compared to all the other stuff, it's kind of...
It's not even a case of like, it was 2004, there were liberals that were against gay marriage. No, he still thinks that shit now. He's still on that same, riding that same train.
Yeah, because he had that quote about children being corrupted right now.
Exactly. Right now, like 3 months ago, 4 months ago.
Yeah, so as you can tell, Mike Johnson, a little bit of a nut job. He's pretty insane. Also, I didn't have this in here, but he's like what do they call him? The people that believe that like the Earth started existing like a couple thousand years ago.
Oh my God. Why am I blanking
Something
on
creationist? I don't know.
I think a young Earth creationist?
Yes. He's one of those. So he literally believes the Earth started like 6,000 years ago or something like that.
He said, no, this is the year 2023.
Yeah.
There's no other way of looking at it.
If you're worried that Mike Johnson has only bad takes, there was some video that surfaced of him saying like systemic discrimination against Black Americans exists. But this was like height of George Floyd 2020 protests, so he could have just gotten infected by the woke mind virus for a little bit.
Yeah, the BLM mob got to him, really.
He had a bad case of woke mind virus, so I think he's probably gotten over that by now.
He's from Louisiana?
Yes.
That's Louisiana would produce a state like this. Louisiana, what is it, highest maternal mortality rate for Black women?
Yes.
Would produce a man like this.
Well, if you didn't count Black women, it wouldn't be that bad.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was the guy that said that.
That was the senator from Louisiana.
If you'd have thrown that quote on there, I'd have said it was him. I'd have said it was him, you know?
Oh my God, what a wacky guy. And the thing I read off at the end there about no-fault divorce and the sexual revolution and stuff like that, that was all just like in a sermon that he gave.
He's a preacher?
He either was or like a guest speaker of some kind.
Yo, you can guest speak at a church?
I don't know, man, but like he put all of that just into the public. He was recorded saying that.
Damn.
Just admitting it.
Who's going to let me come guest speak at their church?
He's the second in line of the presidency, the Speaker of the House, that guy who did all that stuff. And sounds like Heinrich Himmler.
That's beat for beat, frankly.
Man.
Oh my goodness. Speaking of wacky, crazy, zany dudes and other big events that kind of happened this week, we have after a short hiatus, Big labor has finally come back in the news, and this time they did it just to kneecap American auto companies.
The poor auto companies. The hardworking auto company execs.
That's right. To qualitatively look at the damage that the UAW and their big labor cronies are doing to the mom and pop automakers Ford, Stellantis, and GM, let's look at what Bob Lutz, a man who has been in top positions at all of the big three, had to say about the historic deal that the UAW made with Ford and later Stellantis earlier last week. In Lutz's words, this deal, quote, was a gun to the head from a government-sanctioned monopoly called the labor union.
So dramatic.
And man, all I gotta say, if this deal was a gun, they aired that bitch out. They aired that shit out. It was ridiculous. But he didn't stop himself after that banger of a bar. He continued to say, quote, in the past, the UAW always had a realistic respect for the needs of an automobile company to stay competitive. This time, they did not. And I think a lot of what had to be given back was exactly the same things that caused the American automobile industry to be in trouble in 2008.
What?
That's a crazy thing to say because I don't know. If you may recall, something else happened in 2008 that I think led to more trouble for the auto industry than individual workers giving up their pensions.
Yeah, I think
it could be akin to a financial crisis that was so big it was dubbed the Great Recession.
I'd say it was a Great Recession, yeah.
It was a pretty great recession.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I'd say it was maybe that caused, I don't know, people's credit to dry up so they couldn't get auto loans and auto sales to plummet 40%. Not UAW workers giving up their pensions and giving up pay. But
I was just about to say, UAW workers having pensions is what caused the crash in 2008. Okay.
That's definitely what, it's just the payroll. It's the biggest expense of a company. You know what I'm saying?
And it's crazy because, UAW is just asking for what they had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just want to get what they have back and have some protections for the future with EVs and stuff like that. And for him to say, that's a gun to my head, a gun to the head of the auto companies, you're not only dramatic, but you are just you're outside of reality.
Out of this world. It's nuts. But I think now it's time to talk about what they loaded this gun with. What they loaded this gun with. And so, like I said, it is a historic deal. The UAW described the value of gains in this contract to be worth 4 times the value of the 2019 contract, and that the raises they won here in this one round of in this one new contract are greater than the last 22 years of raises combined.
That's good. I
haven't even been alive that long. That's nuts to me. That's really all I can comprehend.
Best contract in our lifetime.
That's what I'm saying. Out of all the other contracts that have ever been put forth while I've been alive, this is the best one. When you combine all those, that's crazy to me. Yeah. That's crazy to me. So specifically, they won a 25% wage increase with cost of living adjustments, which are estimated to bring the total wage increase up to 33%, which is only 7% shy of the initial 40% they asked for.
Yeah.
That people were bitching out, oh, it's too high, oh, it's too high. Look what we got now.
What if everyone got a 40% raise?
They should. They should. I'd love a 40% raise over the next 4 years, mind you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's even just a side note. I heard a lot of people talking about the 40% raise as if they just got 40% on Monday when they returned to work. It's over the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Please just understand that. That makes it a lot more palatable, although it shouldn't have to be palatable to see other workers winning, but whatever. They also won the elimination of the 2-tiered wage system at 2 of Ford's plants. They couldn't get it company-wide, but that's still pretty big because the 2-tier wage system was very bad. They quickened the amount of time it's going to take new hires to earn top pay, and they won the right to strike against plant closures. That's something that we talked about a couple weeks ago. And they also agreed to expand some plants, bringing in new UAW jobs. I'm not sure if this is for both Ford and Stellantis. It could be for one or the other. A lot of the deals are kind of muddy right now because it's only a tentative agreement. This still needs to be voted on, I think, this week.
Okay.
And everything needs to be ratified. So there should be more details next week, if not then the week later, to figure out what's going on. GM is still holding out.
Yeah.
GM is still holding out, but I think it's funny that one of the things that got Ford in is because of the strategy of the rolling strikes that we're seeing. So if you don't recall, UAW has had stand-up strikes at very specific plants around the country in order to shut down wider production without having to strike wider things. It's a strategy that helps them conserve strike funds. And honestly, the fact that they've won these deals with Ford and Stellantis is kind of a testament to how well that strategy worked.
Yeah.
Because they got to save save a lot of money, not just saying, oh, all 140,000 people are on strike. I think only 40,000 are on strike.
Yeah.
There's some different figures like that. But before Ford caved, Sean Fain came out and said, we're going to take out the Dearborn truck plant. What do you think is made at the Dearborn truck plant?
Probably like their most popular car, I would guess.
The Ford F-150, baby. And as soon as Ford heard that their most popular bestseller production was about to get cut off, they said, no. We have to get this oversized truck into the hands of Americans who want to take up too much space in parking lots and parking garages.
Oversized, basically luxury vehicle that is not used for hauling things or work.
This truck that is absolutely huge, but the truck bed size isn't really that much bigger than what we had in the 60s, needs to get in the hands of the most annoying Americans.
This truck that is horrible on gas, and people only want it because we've marketed it as if they want it. They need it to be manly.
This truck that is positioned as the pinnacle of masculinity, we got to get that to people.
Yeah.
We got to get this to people who were mad when drunk driving got outlawed in like the 80s.
Or seatbelt laws were made.
Yeah. And that's what did it. And that's what we have about the UAW. And that's pretty good.
You know, it's really funny to me. We've seen the UAW be on strike for some time. Bob Lutz came out and said they literally have a gun to my head right now, and the gun was loaded with like a fair distribution of compensation, better workplace practices, some protections for plant closures in the future. Like, that's not a gun to your head. That's just people wanting to be treated better.
Exactly. I don't even think they got pensions back. I couldn't find all of the details for it because I swear to God, every article that put it in plain English was you got to pay.
Yeah.
Pay the piper, baby. Come on. So that was annoying, but more stuff, like I said, will come out. I don't think pensions are back, though. I don't know. And that was like one of the biggest things that they gave up in 2008. So what is he talking about?
It's just so crazy for the CEO or whatever he does, for him to come out and say, like, they've got a gun to my head. They have no respect for how things have gone in the past. They don't know what it takes for this company to run effectively. And then what they got is just like, you know, 33% raise over 4 years and some other protections that they've been wanting for a while.
It's so nuts.
A good contract is a gun to your head.
Yeah, it is so nuts that CEOs can get out and say that kind of shit. But when I get out on here and say that kind of shit and we post it on TikTok, I say, CEOs have a gun to the heads of the collective workforce. You either work or starve and die. People who are in my same position or worse off than me say, I just need to work harder.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
They say you need to work harder, and then if we say like, oh, well, maybe he should get a smaller bonus, it's I'm doing violence to him. This total asymmetry in how we comprehend this stuff. Maybe the boss should stop being so whiny and fucking dramatic.
Exactly, because that's what I would be called. That's what I am called when I say this shit like this. But some dude who's sitting in, I don't know, his luxury high-rise can just say the most vile, wicked shit and get away with it. Unlike morning news.
Yeah. Yeah, just the most insane bar that his fucking interns were cooking up.
And it's
probably.
like, dog, you don't work there anymore. What are you doing? You doing it for the love of the game yet again?
Yeah. You should become class conscious. This guy certainly is.
That's what I'm saying.
He knows what he's talking
Billionaires,
about.
these CEOs are the only people in the country who are truly class conscious.
Yeah.
And they get away with it. And it's despicable. And I want to change that.
Exactly. I'm in favor of changing that. You should be in favor of changing that.
That's right. Switching gears over to a little bit more Trump news. So last week, after we had the return of the Kraken, I think it was on Wednesday when the last episode came out.
Even more news, yeah.
Even more news. Some would say maybe possibly bigger news, more damning news for the former president himself.
Yep.
His former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, came out and, let me just get into it. ABC News reports that Markey has been colluding with Jack Smith and his federal investigators, meeting with that, quote, at least 3 times in the last year, with one of those being in front of a grand jury.
It's not looking good for Trump.
And if you think that sounds bad for Markey, it's not. It's worse for Trump because he did this in exchange for full immunity from federal prosecution. So Bro can just whistleblow almost whatever he wants. He can't just get out there and say anything self-incriminating because he still has the Georgia indictment to worry about, a state indictment that's not covered under what Jack Smith does. But still, an immunity deal is huge, especially in a case like this where they're doing everything they can to get this guy.
Yeah, and like for those that don't know, Mark Meadows, again, chief of staff to President Trump, the most recent one before Trump left office. That's like your body man. Like that's like the guy that you go to, especially if you want to commit crimes. For him to take a full immunity deal where he seemingly is going to spill the beans about everything Donald Trump wanted him to do, and he's going to walk back on everything he wrote in his fucking book, which apparently was all a lie.
Oh, I got exactly what he read in his fucking book.
Yeah, for him to agree to all of this is really big news. And I think that's evidenced by Trump on Truth Social saying something along the lines of like, Mark Meadows would never turn his back on me for this prosecution, parentheses, persecution. So I think Trump's a little bit nervous about this.
I don't know how you can, because it's not just a plea deal. It's not just what Sidney Powell did. He can't incriminate himself doing this. He can spill the beans. He can say, oh, I fucking stole the ballots myself. He said, actually, we were doing election fraud and the other way, it just didn't work. And then he's good. He's covered.
That's what Sidney Powell said.
Yeah.
She said that she hired people to come and take ballots from Dominion voting machines or fucking whatever.
And she did it just to get some misdemeanors. She's only got 6 years probation, but whatever.
And a letter. Don't forget the apology letter.
Oh, that's true. The most damning part of her whole ordeal. But anyway, so while we don't know exactly what was said when he squealed, ABC News has sources that relayed some info. Largely, Meadows, as someone who was with Trump and present for his secret election meeting, something that's very important, same deal with Sidney Powell, he told investigators Trump was indeed being dishonest with the public when it came to their election results. A source told ABC that Meadows told investigators directly, quote, honestly, we didn't win.
How can you say that? Mark Meadows was lying his ass off then.
Oh, he was a lot. We'll get into it.
Bro's just like, he was lying for years and years and years about the election, and then he's like, yeah, no, we fucking lost.
Man, it's crazy. This testimony is going to be used to further bolster Jack Smith's case that Trump and his allies unlawfully tried to retain power and spread lies about the 2020 election. That's what this special counsel and like probe into Trump is all about, that they tried to retain power and that they fucking lied, which boy did they. Boy did they. And another part, like Jeremy's been mentioning, is about whether or not Meadows believed claims he published in one of his books, The Chief's Chief. That's what he called it. Corny as hell.
Oh, man, you deserve to go to jail just for that.
I thought that was... I had previously thought that liberals were the corny ones. You know what I mean?
State of terror.
Oh, my God. Everything's been flipped on its head this last year. Oh, my... We have Israel Harry Potter posting and Mark Meadows publishing a book called The Chief's Chief. That's a level of glazing that I didn't think was possible.
John Bolton's book, this came out a couple of years ago, The Room Where It Happens.
Oh, my God. Not Hamilton.
The Hamilton reference in the book title, where he's talking about how he just wants to, like, glass Iran or something like that. Like, the conservatives, liberals are still corny, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, 100%,
they are not free
100%.
from being corny. But to name it, I didn't even know that was the name of the book. Yeah, that deserves jail time. That should be another felony charge.
That's what he should lose immunity for that.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say on that matter. But anyway, he testified that to this day, he hasn't seen any evidence of fraud that would have kept Biden from the White House, and that he agrees with government assessments that this was the most secure election in American history.
Because that's crazy, because there's often a claim around how Donald Trump like believes that election fraud happened, and people around Trump believed that election fraud happened, so that somehow exonerates them from the action that they engaged in. Of course, that's not how the law works. If you just don't understand the law or you don't know what's going on, it doesn't mean you get to break the law.
Yeah.
But here's Mr. Marky Meadows himself saying like, oh yeah, I knew.
He said, I knew. And that was in the context of him saying in his book that the election was stolen and rigged with the help from allies in the liberal media. Another claim in the book was that the many referrals that went before the Justice Department were not seriously investigated. About that, here's an excerpt from the ABC article.
Okay.
I'm just going to read it. Meadows told investigators he believed the Justice Department was taking allegations of fraud seriously, properly investigating them, and doing all they could to find legitimate cases of fraud. And he, Meadows, told investigators he relayed all of that to Trump a few weeks after the election. Similarly, as described by sources to ABC News, despite Meadows telling investigators that Giuliani never produced evidence of significant fraud in the election, his book refers to Giuliani's effort to expose, quote, the fraud and the dirty tricks on election night.
Oh my God.
That's good.
How can you just, well, okay, clearly Mark Meadows didn't write the book. Usually
it was
they
him
have
and a ghostwriter.
teams of interns, ghostwriters write the book for them. This is the case with a lot of politicians and like celebrities and stuff like that. But still, to have it published under your name, and then once you get into the heat of battle,
As soon as you're under threat of perjury,
yeah, you're like, yeah, I fucking lied about all of it.
No.
How can you do that, man? Like, just no morals, no negative feelings about just fucking lying.
And it's like, I know like lying's not illegal, nor should like lying be illegal, but like this type of lying is crazy.
Well, when you're trying to steal an election, right?
This shit it definitely crosses a line. And all I'm going to say, I could be one hell of a conservative ghostwriter. If you can just get on there and say whatever and lie about whatever, even though you know, if you can go out there and knowingly lie about anything, man, put me in the ring.
If we could get ghostwriter jobs, we could like create news stories for us to cover.
It's
That'd
like
be quite the
Nightcrawler.
cycle, yeah.
It's like the movie Nightcrawler.
Imagine if we like we get hired by like a conservative politician. We write what they say, outlandish things, and then we cover what they say on the show, make clips and stuff about them that get us paid, and it's just a cycle going around.
If we become a conservative speechwriter,
That
that's crazy. Jeremy, it's a dry week this week.
Yeah, that'd be
Time to go make the news.
I need to get in that position.
That's what I'm saying. That's how I'm trying to position myself in life moving forward. So watch out. It's also kind of like if a crypto company ever came to us, you should know how we feel about crypto and like crypto rug pulls and scams. And I say this to say that you should know that if we ever endorse one, I'm getting my bag.
Do not believe me.
Do not go out and buy it. Do not invest. No matter what I say, I'm telling you right now, do not believe it if I ever tell you to invest in a crypto rug pull.
Didn't a YouTuber do that? Where
Yes.
he was like, and then afterwards he was like, don't do that.
He said I had to get my bag. And that's where I'm at.
When people are honest about that kind of stuff, I almost respect it. You know, so many
I do.
So many of like the NFT or cryptocurrency rug pulls are just fucking lies. But for people that come out and they're like, I'm getting my bag, don't buy this. I mean, come on.
I'm saying I could sleep at night if I went out there and said like, yeah, I just did it for the bag. But if I went out there and tried to be like, oh no, I like actually believe in shitcoin.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually believe in piss shit and cum coin. Like, guys, please go Elon's jizz coin. Please invest.
Lock them up.
Lock me up right then and there. Oh my goodness. But back to Marky Mark, Mr. Meadows. At one point, when he was promoting the book on a conservative podcast, he was asked if he believed that the election was stolen. He said, quote, I do believe that there are a number of fraudulent states. I've seen at least illegal activity in Pennsylvania and Georgia.
Oh my God.
And that's crazy because the illegal activity was Sidney Powell in Georgia. So that's just one thing to consider when we look at this.
And he previously said he saw like nothing and he thought it was all being taken care of and investigated to the highest possible degree. And then he just said like, oh, I saw illegal. It's just like Joe Biden saw the beheaded babies. You're lying. You didn't see anything.
And then under threat of perjury, he goes, yeah, no, most secure election in American history. Right there. Everyone did their job.
Became a fucking liberal.
Ballots. That's what I'm saying. I don't even get behind the most secure election in American history just because that sounds corny.
Yeah.
But he's out there like, oh yeah, come on now. Like, not a single fraudulent. But actually, only conservatives were the ones doing election fraud. I can tell you that right now, right here under threat of perjury.
Oh, that's so good.
He's good, man. I can't imagine like what was said in those rooms that sources haven't leaked.
Yeah.
Like what is Jack Smith cooking up there in his cauldron of legal doctrine ready to throw at Donald Trump when he comes? Oh my God.
And they just turned him into a liberal. God, they got him in the chair, injected him with the woke mind virus, and suddenly he's saying Trump tried to steal the election just like a lib.
Instead of truth serum, it's just 50 microliters of woke. Oh my God, they got him, man.
Not Mark Meadows.
Mark Meadows is the White House down. White House is fallen.
God's strongest soldier. Rest in peace, Mark Meadows. Yeah, Trump's. The more I see it, the more I just like Trump is cooked. How does he get out of it?
It's like I can't remember what I said when we first covered the 4 indictments. I didn't think he was that cooked for most of it.
Yeah.
Nah, bro's done for.
Yeah, especially not for like the one that has to do with like Stormy Daniels or whatever, or the one sexual assault case, E. Jean Carroll or whatever. Like he's gonna be fine.
Those have been going on for so long. I don't think those will be fruitful.
And also, conservatives definitely don't care about sexual assault. You know what I mean?
Because it's like I'm pretty sure generally, like when it came to like the January 6th stuff, the election denial stuff, I didn't think they were gonna get him on it. I eat my fucking words happily right now.
Well, and it's like the even the documents one to me was like
it
was big news when we covered it. I was very excited about it.
Yeah.
The pictures were hilarious of the documents stacked up in his house, but it wasn't clear to me immediately that they were going to be able to stick him with charges to put him in prison. But when it comes to this one and it comes to the Georgia one, neither of those look good because it looks like they got him on breaking laws and they're getting his own folks to testify against him.
They're
people that also broke the law alongside him.
All rats,
yeah.
Oh my God. Colluding with federal investigators is crazy. There's the one attorney. I don't know if we talked about her last week. I can't remember her name, but she raised something like $200,000 to help fund her legal battle in the Georgia indictment.
Yeah.
And then flipped.
Yeah,
and then just
was that Jenna Ellis?
Yes.
Yeah. She also flipped. She was one of the ones that got a mugshot taken of her, and she was like smiling all crazy.
Yeah, because she knew she just got the bag.
Well, I thought she was smiling because she's like, they're never gonna get me. Like I'm innocent. But a few months later, fucking broke. She's crying in testimony.
No, but she was smiling because she got all that money.
Yeah,
she knew she was gonna be able to fundraise all this. She knew she was taking the plea deal. Oh my God!
And you know what? Good for her getting the bag.
That's what I'm saying. And you know what? Maybe. Like I say so many times, not everyone is wholly bad. If you're squealing on Trump, if you're stealing money from conservative donors, I'll look the other way.
Yeah, I mean, I stand by what I said last episode when I said that I don't want to just see Trump be the only one that gets in trouble.
Yeah.
But if the option is, a bunch of people get immunity deals and we get Trump or we don't get anybody, like, then I guess, I don't know the complex politics and strategizing that goes into, like, how you're going to manage federal cases and state cases at the same time and all that kind of stuff. So if they think they can only get him and they have to do that by giving others immunity deal, it's fine, whatever. But
and it's like I don't know. I hope they at least get Trump and Rudy. Mm-hmm. I hope if anyone has to go down, I hope it's at least those two.
Yeah, Rudy Giuliani in prison would be nice. Trump in prison, like, obviously.
Because it's just the irony of hitting Mr. Rico with the Rico.
Yeah, Mr. Rico himself.
It's palpable.
Rico King, Rico God.
Like he has done exactly what is being done to him. He has gone and charged like 20 people just to get them all to squeal on the big guy.
Yeah.
And now he finds it. Oh, how the turns have tabled.
It does. I am slightly conflicted on that Rico charge, though.
Yeah.
Just because same prosecutor, same charges being that Young Thug's being hit with, same person and everything.
That's true.
And it's free Jeffrey, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like
I'm screaming free
Jeffrey, and it's like it's conflicting to see one person get hit with the Rico charge, and gotta free him.
Yeah.
And then Rudy Giuliani's getting hit with the Rico charge. What do I do?
By the same DA? Yeah, that's true.
Do I take a principled stance and say anyone getting hit with the Rico charge should be free?
No, I take a principled stance and say that the criminal justice system in this country is deeply racist, and that's why it's free Jeffrey, lock up Rudy. You know what I'm saying?
Law and order.
One is clearly biased, and the other is clearly he broke the law.
We do a lot of work to be consistent on this show. I think I can be inconsistent just once.
That's right. I mean, to be fair, I've been consistent on this. As soon as those Rico charges got announced, we got on here.
That's true.
And we said free Jeffrey, free Wanna. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, man, what a story. The only thing that we need to, I guess, wait for with this kind of story is if it's actually going to happen before the election. Because if Trump wins the election, he's not getting prosecuted. He's getting persecuted, though, by the liberal media.
Definitely.
But, yeah, the charges aren't going to continue against him because he's going to be a sitting president. Like, that's his only way out at this point is winning the presidency.
He's going to have to put everything. Oh, my God. There was also news that dropped. Ivanka was just ordered to testify in the New York case. The case that he's actually worried about, his children were just ordered to testify against him. It was Ivanka, Eric, and Don.
Is that the tax evasion case or the lying about
like
assets
the fraud
case?
and tax evasion thing.
The one where he was like, I did lie about my assets, but I undervalued them. There actually was so much more.
Yeah, that's exactly
because I'm so modest.
That's exactly the one. And so, his own daughters have to testify against him and sons, but he doesn't like them.
Oh, okay.
So that's good. He's cooked in every facet of this dude's life. He's just cooked.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even see him really winning the election. I don't want to do a 2016 thing, but I don't see it.
At this point, no. I don't.
I think public opinion has swayed way too far away from him.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the people who are going for Ron DeSantis right now, although they're not much, I feel like are people that wouldn't want to vote for Trump again.
Maybe.
Because why are you going for Ron DeSantis in the first place? You know what
but
I
Ron
mean?
DeSantis has been falling in the polls.
That's
been Nikki Haley on the come up.
Nikki Haley passed him in a couple polls.
Yeah.
That debate's coming up 2 weeks.
November 8th or something like that, I think. Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
Oh my God.
Another banger, another 2 hours of debate.
Next week.
No, 2 weeks. Oh, okay, yes. Next week when this episode comes out. A week from when this episode comes out, yeah.
Oh, shit.
Pretty crazy.
We'll have to make plans for that.
Got to make plans for that. Anyway, last piece of news, I guess. I didn't put this in the main show notes because, America. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's America. It's unfortunately another mass shooting. And this one, although I think, what is it? Last I saw, it was 19 people dead.
Something like that.
20-something injured. Horrible mass shooting in Maine. Nothing has come of it.
Yes.
Like, usually with the ones that are huge in the news and ones that are huge in casualty counts and death tolls, you at least get a congressional thing talking about, like, oh, maybe we'll do gun control. Maybe it's got to stop. Maybe we need to fix mental health issues. But instead, Congress is too worried about electing some Christo-fascist who thinks that if you just got rid of at-will divorce or no-fault divorce, that these things wouldn't have happened.
Stop, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like after the El Paso shooting where like 24 children died, I mean,
discourse has gone way down.
If that's not the thing that really regulates guns in this country, I don't know what's going to do it. We did get some, like a little bit, a taste of gun control after that happened a couple months later, encouraged by that event, of course. But I don't know that like anything else is going to happen to substantially affect school or mass shootings in this country. Not even just school shootings, but mass shootings generally. This one wasn't a school shooting, but the reason it was notable was because he did one shooting, then he took off and did another shooting, and then he was at large for a while. And the cops just had no leads. And they didn't find him, of course. He killed himself, as a lot of shooters do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he got away with it, basically. You know what I mean?
That's fucking insane that he could have just got away with it.
Yeah, they just couldn't find it. I remember reading an article on it when he was still at large, and they were just like, yeah, the cops have no leads. It's like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Not a single one?
None.
Not a single security camera foot? God,
I mean,
damn,
I know
man.
Maine's got like 45 people. It's basically not a state, but still.
Fuck, dude. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's why I didn't include it in the main show, because there's lots of other big things going on, and it's just another America moment that like, I don't think is going to change anything.
Unfortunately, it's one of those issues now where it's like, I feel like we kind of covered the end of it. Like the end of just talking about gun control. There's
with
been
the bill?
so many mass shootings since then, and nothing's really happened. Like, none of them have really garnered, like, any. We talked about MSU just because I was there.
Yeah.
But, like,
Well, I think we probably would have talked about that anyway, because, like, Michigan
big college
University.
one. And Gretchen Whitmer did a lot of shit with that one.
Yeah.
But there have still been fucking a billion other shootings around the country that sparked nothing.
Well, what, in 2022 we had like 1,000, I think. Like something ridiculous. I mean, I remember the stat, like a couple months into the year we had like 300 already. I mean, it's just like an insane number of school shootings. Not school shootings, mass shootings. School shootings being one type of them, of course. And nothing ever happens again. If nothing happened after Sandy Hook, if nothing happened after El Paso, Texas just a year and a half ago, 1 year ago?
Yeah, something like that.
I think last spring. If nothing happened with those, I don't really have much hope that like adults dying to a mass shooting is going to do anything.
Especially when Congress is too busy condemning Hamas.
Oh, exactly. They have to condemn Hamas.
They have to condemn Hamas before they can worry about, I don't know, stopping kids from dying.
If you care about mass shootings, then you should care that Hamas did a mass shooting.
Oh, yeah, a really big one, actually.
So we should send more bombs to Israel. That's what's going to stop shootings.
We should institute gun control for Hamas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that'll solve the issue.
Anyway, so if you had your eye on that story, I'm sure a lot of people saw it because it was notable. That's our take on it. Our take, nothing's going to change. Pretty positive.
Woo!
I mean, it's the Onion headline, right? Like, country that, or what is it, like, there's nothing we can do, says country that the only country where this happens regularly or something like that. Like, it's America, and we don't really care, I guess.
There's nothing we can do, says the country who saw instances of this thing go up as soon as the assault weapon ban lifted.
Crazy that used to be a thing.
I know.
We used to just have an assault weapons ban.
I cannot think of a world where that exists anymore.
Well, because it ended before we were alive.
Exactly.
In the 90s, I think.
God.
During Bill Clinton.
Oh, and right before the crime. Oh, during Bill Clinton. Okay.
I think so, during the 90s. Or maybe it passed during the 90s and ended in the 2000s. I don't know the specifics. It's gone now.
I'm not sure. I know, what was it, Feinstein? She like helped get the assault weapon bans through.
Yeah.
That was like one good thing she did.
She would have loved to condemn Hamas.
She would have loved to be in Congress right now, let me tell you. R.I.P.
Anyway, that brings us to the end of our episode, and we got to read off the special list of people that I wonder if they condemn Hamas.
That's right. So, do you Caden Kraut, Lord T the Radiant, Chris the Postman, Christy Bag, 40% Spite, Dylan B, Andrew Harris, Mike Chaplinsky, Mattias T, Omar Zuno, Clayton LaFed, Mark Yeager, Kaz, Caleb Joy, Rich Toro, Tari, Gavin Mayer, Maldonado, Hunter W, Fergalaki, Max Vasquez, Jacob Rogers, Colton Mooberry, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Jeff Muzzy, Bagel Burrito, Cincy Alex, Joe Stenstrom, Adrian Sandoval, Chloe Sam 601, Colleen Cuts, Gregory Isn't My Name, Very Yook, Jennifer DeVoe, Big Bird Titty, Crawfishin, Bennett Bennington III, Alexia Benanti, Nietzsche, Big Booty Beatdown, Moises T, Sam Maloney, Two-Headed Boy, Ben Shapiro's Boyfriend, Jonathan Cassis, Luke O'Shea, Cucker Tarlson, Danielle Jackson, The Word of Microsoft, Jennifer Sines, Aaron and His Gundam Gundams, Darth Father, Aiden Taylor, Corey Chambers, Sewer Snack, L.E.N., John Glover, Devin Hatchard, Retro Mondo, Meatball Minion, Emma the Dude Slayer, Claire McMillan, Breezy B, Veronica aka V, Raxoon, Ash Smith, The Grotler, Magic Ian 95, Flower Clown, Beetlebugs, Three Crows in a Trench Coat, Lonnie Rogers, Slavic and Sapphic, Casey Lynn Kelly, Snake Eyes, In Hope of Giants, AK Gone, Aquanadon, Zach Lantian, Info Russell, Austin Greif, Marcus Corbett, Caleb Roper, Taylor Rensock, Ishi Teddy, Cammy, Calliope, Reagan, Not Like the President, Pagan Jester, Tylen Freeman, Steak Daddy, Tay Tay, Isaac Hodges, Madeline C, Pab the Pab 69, Kayla Lowe, Anna Valinik, Eduardo Diaz, KCC, Say Yes to Wes, August, Natalie Valinsky, Particular Pickman, Mason Crack, Jeff Science, Howard the Duck, Brendan is Egg, JR, Drew Batchilder, Froggy Gumdrop, Evan Malika, Zen doing their best, Jackie Boy, Shameless, and Jeremy's mom condemn Hamas.
Bro did the whole list for the bit.
I had to.
Do you guys condemn Hamas?
Do you all condemn Hamas? I'm asking.
That's the important question.
Put a poll on Patreon.
Maybe Hamas are the friends we made along the way. No, wait, probably not that. Maybe condemning Hamas is the friends we made along the way.
Yes.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Have a great week.